Live from the mothership, you are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You're receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio. It is now time to hear the colors and see the music. I'm your host, Jonah Bolt. Today is Friday. Friday. I'm launching my 2-week adventure 5-city tour tonight, flying to Denver tonight, so it's going to be awesome. Next week and the following week, doing live broadcasts in all the cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, Atlanta, and Asheville, beautiful Asheville. So it's going to be an amazing trip. Joining me on the show today, we have none other than our 3 local and amazing guests we'd like to have on. I call them local because they're in the family. We have Ryan Matthew Dernick coming on from bellwetherpost.com. And then after that, we have a WINDFOX update. We're going to be talking about some antibacterial protection. Uses it for organic antibacterial to antibacterialize your hands and your house and cleansing, just to keep everything all in all nice and clean. We also have Dr. Richard Allen Miller coming on. He's one of the show's favorites. Here we're going to be talking about Fukushima, as well as a new type of neutron bomb that the government has developed. We'll get into that, and of course, we're going to go into some Ebola outbreak stuff. But first, we're going to jump to our very own Ryan Matthew Dernick, none other than bellwetherpost.com. Check out his stuff. He's always posting great news and articles, and lots of things going on in the world today.
Definitely.
Ryan, it's Friday. You know what that means.
I know what that means. TGIF.
TGIF. Exactly. There we go. Talk about Ebola. Oh, ISIS. ISIS taking over. It's Friday. We got volcanoes popping off. Time for the news. It's Friday, so we're going to have a little fun, Ryan. Talk about the Hong Kong protests going off. Woo! It's going off in Hong Kong. Here we go. All right. Let's get a little serious here. Try to get a little serious in airways. Ryan, give us some updates. We have Hong Kong protests popping off. They revamped.
They've reamped up the protest. Everyone's here for the long haul. They have tents. They've got all their supplies ready. And surprisingly and most amazingly, it is a youthful movement in those areas in regards to fighting back China mainland policies of not honoring the agreement that they made in 1984 when they broke away from Britain and were once again part of the mainland of China in regards to having democratic elections. This is really the bottom line, is they just want the democratic elections. Can you blame them? I mean, it is the 21st century. I think that totalitarianism should take a back seat, and we should go forth with a more democratic...
And it's China, too, so of course I'm all for democracy in China. Problem is, Ryan, there is no real true democracy left on the planet, but please continue.
No, there's not. And if anybody else notices, there is somewhat of a banana republic effect, I'm going to call that on a global scale. You see people traveling, a lot of people buying up things, but it's a very, very small group of people. When you have that, it doesn't sustain itself for long periods of time. And that's basically what I think is the bigger problem behind everything going on in regards to the small workforce participation in the United States and other countries, the generations lost in Europe into the European Union. Industry has actually faltered recently in the last quarter in Germany, and that's really what's causing the pangs in the market, so to speak. And right now, as the market yesterday went down points has now somewhat rebounded, and I say that very, very slightly, only at 25 points up since yesterday, and the 334 points going down. And analysts, many have said, as well as had Morgan Stanley, Reinbart said this today. He said that the workforce participation is null, and that is probably the reflection, that there's no other correlation, because they say that the stock market's doing well. And, there is a definite...
Well, here's the one thing I have to say about analysts, Ryan. They're analyzing the rigged system, so to me,
exactly.
Their analyzation means absolutely nothing. Just like all the totalitarian, globalist diplomas from Harvard and Yale we were talking about. What do we call them? We came up with a name for them. For all the Harvard and Yale people who graduated, they're basically graduating with doctorates and things based upon people just writing.
It's basically, if you look at it, most education to a great degree is all propaganda, and to the specific propaganda which you're subjected to and you're inculcated into or digested into, that you become a compartment of and a supporter of, and that's only natural in the human psyche and the way we are as mimickers. That's what we are as human beings, and we have to adderate toward a higher consciousness versus this backward cabal-like mentality of divide and conquer, because that ultimately leads to nowhere good. And if we do eventually have a third world war, after that, the war thereafter, as you know, Jonah, as scholars have quoted, will be fought with rocks and sticks. So that's where we would head if unfortunately we go that way. But in regards to Ebola in Madrid, the fears have increased.
And Ryan, just to say, I agree with you on that 100%. We don't want to see a world war. We're talking about this stuff and bringing it to light so we can make a change for the planet. Like you said, to raise the consciousness. That's why we're talking about this stuff, so people can be aware, so we can do something about it. If you're not aware, can't help the situation. Ebola's popping off. What's going on with the Ebola update?
In regards to Ebola, the hospital staff at the Madrid hospital where the nurse was working, and they did euthanize her dog, of course, because they were worried of transmission from humans to submammals. So basically, that's what occurred in regards to that. The hospital staff at that specific hospital in Madrid, they have intense shortages now of hospital staff. In regards to, they don't have the faith, even in Europe, the faith in the medical staffing. They don't have faith in the health industry over there as well. In regards to the protocol that they think are lacking tackling Ebola, and the CDC has even said and kept reassuring, don't worry, we're going to handle this in a very proper way. We're going to be able to suppress the spread of Ebola. And luckily, though, the gentleman, the deputy officer in Dallas, they tested him. He came up negative. He did not show that he had Ebola. But this is a global effect. I mean, we have the cases are increasing. You have 5 people infected each hour in some parts of Western Africa. Okay,
wow.
Insane numbers. If you look at
and remember, by watching Vice News, shout out to Vice, they're turning people away from the clinics. They don't have enough staff. They don't have enough manpower. No. And we even sent in, I think, 1,000 troops down there. I read this week to help, with what's going on. So, it's a problem. It's an issue. People need to be aware of it. And like Dr. Richard Miller said, he's coming on a second half of the show. He's going to talk about it. This could put people in a big state of fear and panic, dude. I could say
exactly. And then we also, everyone has to remember, it's not just that. It's the other virus in South America, the Anderssonn virus, G68, the dengue fever variation that's come from the Caribbean, the waterborne illness from mosquitoes. So you have to watch these different illnesses, and you have to have preventative measures on your own. Be hygienic about your own practices.
That's right.
If you touch a handle, don't put it to your nose or mouth thereafter. Wash your hands, or have antibacterial wipes in your car or something. You have to. It's all about prevention. That's the only way that you can be impervious, as this Ebola concern keeps raising more issues and concerns. And the fact is, the global community does not believe that the people that they're doing enough in regards to supporting this. I mean, they're only screening 5 U.S. airports, Jonah.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And that's why WINDFOX is joining us next to talk about how to antibacterialize your home in an organic way, because you got to be proactive in this. And Ryan, thanks again for coming on the show. Everyone out there, check out bellweatherpost.com for Ryan's latest news and updates, or check out starseedradio.com also. And Starseed Technologies, shout out to the Shungai. What's up, Ryan? Thanks so much again. All right, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Radio. Always check out starseedradio.com for the latest news and updates. I got my Twitter feed up there. Like us on Facebook. We got Ryan's posts up there as well from Bell.com. So we're always trying to keep everybody updated and aware of everything you can be so we can change it. So going to our next guest, we're going to bring on one of these shows' favorite people to have on, Mr. WINDFOX from the beautiful mountains of North Carolina. Mr. WINDFOX has practiced Western and Eastern medicine. He uses all organic products. He makes all his own tinctures. I visited WINDFOX's house many times. I've taken many of his tinctures, and some of it is still available in StarseedRadio.com, our store. We have a shop up there. You can buy some products and stuff. And WINDFOX is always amazing to have on the show just because he's such has a well-rounded knowledge and background of what he does and the seriousness of it and just how he produces everything organically. And he picks everything from the native area, meaning all his tinctures and stuff he gets from all the surrounding areas and forests and stuff. So he uses it to come in. Okay, so the station's calling him right now. They had a little connection problem. So we'll go a little bit more into some news and updates then until they get WINDFOX on the line. So we're talking about the Ebola virus, and while we have WINDFOX coming on, to talk about antibacterial materials. What type of stuff can you do around your house? And so what Brian was just saying, to sort of protect your house and just cleanse it, to make it where there's no extra laying around, like Ryan said, especially now in airports and trains, things like that. You don't want to be touching rails and touching things. Plus the cold season's coming up. People are going to be coughing everywhere. Things like that. You want to be proactive and not touch. Sometimes the antibacterial stuff is good to carry around, so when you touch like a doorknob or something like that, to do it. Now, I know people in China and Asia for years, they've been walking around with masks on and things like that, being proactive. And, I hate to say and even see it, a country like that, but you got to do what you can right now, especially like in the Dallas area. I'm sure people are freaking out, and I hope this doesn't really spread to, a more wide range of Ebola outbreak in the country, because we were talking about this yesterday. This pandemic, if it does get big enough to where it's a pandemic here in the U.S., can you imagine the devastation it's going to have in terms of the economy? I mean, think about it. What Rick was saying, what we're going to talk about more is if it does become a pandemic and people freak out, then you're going to see lots of malls and strip centers and all that stuff shut down because people are not going to want to go out. They're going to be fearful, and the economy can literally just crash because of that as a result. It's a perfect way in for martial law because there's a Ebola outbreak. They want to contain things. I mean, this could be a doorway to a lot. So we talk about it because we need to be aware of it. Everyone should be aware of it because if something does happen, you need to be able to make the best, most conscious decision you can. With that, WINDFOX, thank you for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing quite well. How are you today?
Doing great, brother. I told listeners already a little bit about your background, what you do, and what the topic today is to how to sort of use organic antibacterial stuff around your house, around your home. Flu season's here. We have the Ebola and other virus outbreaks going on. So give us a little background, if you can, WINDFOX, on what we can use to sort of stabilize our house environment using, what type of organic stuff to keep germs and bacteria out.
Well, I've actually, this is something I usually talk about on a lot of my juniper berry. Juniper berry is actually a wonderful antiviral. In fact, there's been legends of 19th century physicians putting a berry in their cheek while they're working with sick clients.
So elderberry, you can put it around your house and just...
The juniper berry, you can make a tea out of it and use it as a spray. You can just eat some of the berries. The only thing is they do stimulate the kidneys a little bit, so if a person has chronic kidney problems, they might not be the best. One of the best ways I've actually found is by making my own cleaning sprays. I actually will start with one of the quart bottles that you usually get. I usually just refill the bottles, but I'll start with 3 or 4 ounces of vinegar. I'll put in some antimicrobial extracts, sometimes some black walnut for parasites, sometimes some white cedar if there's fungal and viral pathogens. I can make an extract of juniper berry and put that in there. Sometimes a little bit of echinacea, and usually some golden seal or something Japanese honeysuckle, which is both antiviral and antibiotic. But Then you just put in a teaspoon of a dish detergent and fill up the rest of the way with water, and you've got a nice, quick, easy disinfecting spray that you can spray around the office as a mist, or you can just use to sanitize surfaces. It actually works quite well.
Awesome. That's great. So for all the listeners out there, hopefully you got a chance to write that down and, use organic materials. Obviously, WINDFOX, you know as well as I do, you want to use all organic materials. You don't want to be spraying chemicals. The big thing, people spraying Fantastic and Windex and all this stuff around the house, and that you breathe that in. No matter where you spray it or the direction, you're going to breathe that in. It goes into the air, and it's just really horrible
and that's
stuff.
Counterproductive, because that way you're trying to do this thing to protect your health, and at the same time you're giving the body more toxins to process. So that's something to think about too. When you're not using the organic stuff, you're actually poisoning the body a little bit while you're trying to help it fight off things. So you're actually preventing it from being able to fight off those substances by using non-organic compounds.
Exactly, and just like we were talking earlier, Brian mentioned the dengue virus. I'm living in Costa Rica now the last year, and the dengue virus was a big outbreak over the summer there. A lot of people got it, like more than 20% of our town, and I started taking neem, which is it's like a skin product or something, but neem supposedly acts as like a natural bug repellent when you sweat it out. Have you had any information on neem?
Actually, I know a lot of farmers that have used it to help control aphids, to help control a lot of microbial growth on their plants. It's highly antimicrobial. It's anti-parasitic. It's really a wonderful product. It tastes horrible, I will say that. If you're taking it internally, it does not taste very good. But normally it's used externally with a lot of good effect. It's very nourishing and healing to the skin, too. So, if you have a wound, you're worried about it getting infected, it'll not only help keep it from getting infected, but also help increase that wound healing time.
Yeah, the actual pills I take, they're like skin pills. They're like, and I also got neem toothpaste as well. So I brush my teeth with neem in Costa Rica, and I also got neem like an oil to like douse like my legs as like a bug spray. So I take the best precaution and protection I can when I'm down there, because I don't want to get bit by the mosquitoes with the dengue, because that's all over. It's rampant, this summer. It's cut down a bit because they cut down a lot of trees. The city came in and cleaned up, but it's still, you got to be proactive. What are some other things people can do to be proactive?
Well, especially with that, I've learned over the years, and it's something I actually use. I make a pest away spray that actually has catnip as one of its primary components. Recent studies have shown that catnip is even more effective than DEET at keeping mosquitoes from biting you. So making a topical application of catnip, as mild as that might sound, works extraordinarily well for keeping the mosquitoes off, especially when you're worrying about communicable diseases like dengue fever with West Nile virus. Even helps keep some of the other diseases away, because catnip naturally helps the pores of the body kind of flush things out. So it also helps kind of protect us a little bit from things that might not be coming from mosquitoes. So catnip is really a wonderful powerhouse herb for something that's so gentle you can even give it to babies. As far as the Ebola and everything these days, I mean, obviously you're going to want to do something a little more heavy duty for that. But I find that a lot of it is preventative and learning how to read your body. If you can tell you're starting to get a little run down, and you take care of yourself, and you get some fluids, and you get some rest, and you start taking antimicrobial immune boosting stuff right there.
Be tough. And WINDFOX, thanks again for coming on. We are out of time, as always. WINDFOX Herbals, thanks again for coming on the show. Have an amazing day. Stay organic, brother. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Peace.
All right, welcome back to the show. You're the Starseed Radio. It is Friday, and now we're joined by our last guest. We have Dr. Richard Alan Miller, author and researcher. Richard Alan Miller reveals a wealth and depth of knowledge and experience in alternative agriculture. It goes into New Age physics, metaphysics. He's an original team member, Man in Black, most research in the field of parapsychology and paraphysics. Began as a graduate physicist, working 11 years with Navy Intel. He's also done work with MIT, with Harvard, writer for Nexus magazine. We love having him on the show because he has such a wealth of knowledge and background and education. And with that, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you? Good morning.
I'm going bald, and I have just come back from dentistry, and they have found an artifact inside my mouth. I can't believe it. I don't believe in such things, and there it is. We went for a panoramic and then a three-dimensional scan, and now we're going up to Oregon Health Services because I don't even trust the doctors around here.
Yeah, well, we know how the medical system is these days, and it's full of...
we're talking about dental now, and the dental industry is even worse than the medical industry.
That's right. Talking about health, we have a hot topic, Rick, and that is the Ebola, and you have a wealth of knowledge and information about that. So let's jump into the Ebola. What is this Ebola virus, or they're calling it the Ebola virus? What do you think it is? What's going on? It's in Dallas now. A man died.
Right out of the gate, I don't know, but just from the inconsistencies that I have seen coming out of Sierra Leone and Liberia, it probably is not Ebola per se, because this one is airborne. And now it can mutate. My guess is that they were weapons testing on an old, creepy virus developed in the Soviet Union, known as the zombie drug that they developed to have China eat itself up. Now they're partners with China 20 years later, and the people that had originally developed this drug, all three of them are dead, which means there's nobody around that is an expert that can identify what it is. And so it's an Ebola-like virus, probably. Now, what Ebola is super scurvy. That means the Ebola virus strips things out of your body, vitamin C, just totally wrecks it. And what you can do for prevention is good nutrition. If you have good nutrition, even being exposed to Ebola may not allow it to set in. Now, with that said, the fact that it does set in, once it's in your body, you can simply fix that and have documentation on that with vitamin C therapy. Chelated vitamin C intravenous will absolutely clear it. People are living. They've already done it in Bethesda. Why is our borders open in aircraft in Texas to West Africa? I mean, right now, they should have a quarantine on that. Why are they not? Okay.
And many South African countries do have a quarantine. They're limiting flights. They're even doing it. They're being proactive.
That's correct, but not America. Now, why? Well, there are several potential. They're probably not true, but you would be remiss if you didn't at least suggest the possibilities. Let's say, for example, you're in Asheville, correct?
Not right now, but I was living in Asheville for 4 years. I'm down.
Okay, so let's say the local mall in Asheville or wherever is someone comes down with Ebola. What's going to happen next? Okay, well, they'll close the mall down. That will put a tremendous financial strap on a number of individuals in that community, and will be excuse for them to declare martial law. That's how it's going to play. And so what they're going to do is try to put a fear level onto people about the possibility of Ebola. But guess what? There's 4 other major ones now ripping across America as we speak. That one in in Missouri and Illinois, it's whacking all the children, is also, why is there all of a sudden a major series of scares on viruses? Well, one explanation is, guess what? our news reporting today literally is more covert than Nazi Germany during World War II. And
we know that because Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, the Wall Street Journal, all of those have representatives that attend Bilderberg meetings every year. So we know all the major media outlets here are plugged into the elitists. They're total propaganda.
What's happened? What's happened to the old Watergate kinds of people going and getting the scoop on the story like they did in Vietnam? And what caused the war in Vietnam to not be very favored was because of the news reporting that was happening. And good morning, Vietnam, Harnauer, and some of these other people that tried to do the right thing, what happened? And so a bunch of us that are ex and or still, I'm not military anymore, I'm retired, but I have a lot of buddies, and I have a secret clearance because I have access, limited access. And today, I'm just retired, I don't have any toys to confirm or prove my theories. I'm working like an armchair physicist. But one of the things I'm really good at is connecting dots, and the dots I'm seeing come up on my screen are creepy. And something to suggest that we have been invaded by something, and that this war that is raging right now has nothing to do with the physical plane. It's on other dimensions that we don't even grok yet.
That's right.
And I don't have the answers to any of this, but my gut, and I'm really good with that because that's what I train SEALs, how to be intuitive, my gut says this is not right in Guacamora. And with that said, what do you do now? Well, my recommendation, good nutrition, even if you get exposed to Ebola, you're not going to get it, most likely, if you have your eating right out of the gate. And then, if you're real creepy, get some acerola, vitamin C. Take about 6 grams a day. Use it like candy. That'll do it. Now, if it's not Ebola, that's a different story. And I don't have those answers. And so what I do know is that nothing in the media is right. And here, even me, is not so much disinformation, but concern about what I do not know. And that's the difference between free will and true will. Free will would presume you have full disclosure. You do not. And because you do not have free will, you have responsibilities. And that's how it plays. And so the war for Earth starts with, the war inside you. And fear is the first enemy of men.
That's right. And I think that's why we see so much of this, and it's so good to hear you say, when you talk on the aspect, Rick, about being multidimensionally, because that's what we see now, and that's what people really need to understand. There's other things going on that we just don't know.
You're not even aware of. No, that's what they call mind control. The idea that lying by omission, that's called counterintelligence, where you tell the truth, but you only tell a portion of it. And so it leads you to this directions of conclusions. That's the problem with the upper brain. The upper brain, what is associated with the mind, it's not. It is basically to make all your beliefs true. And so if you believe it's possible that you can get shot, you will. And
That's
so
right.
one of the things I train SEALs to become Supermen is how to think with their gut. Intuition
Rick,
is
hold
not
on right there.
waste of time.
That's right. We got to take a quick commercial break. And I know you used to train ex-Navy SEAL, original Men in Black. You know you're talking about, Rick. So hang on right there. When we come back, I want to talk about this new weapon that they developed just to show how crazy humanity's gotten when we get right back. Here's some more DJ Scalar. We're right back with Rick. Dr. Michelle. welcome back to the show. We're now joined by Dr. Richard, ex-Navy Intel, original Men in Black, writer for Nexus Magazine, and publisher and writer of many books. Check out richardallenmiller.com, and just so you know, it's ALANMILER. That's richardallenmiller.com. He also has his new books available at oak-publishing.com. And Rick, your newest book is the 21st Century, Power Tools for the 21st Century, correct?
Yes, those and the workbook that goes with it. There are 2 more workbooks. These are the protocols I developed for Navy SEALs to make them into Supermen. They're toys, enhancements. And now, 40 years later, I'm writing about them in how you could integrate them in your own personal life. We're up against a war right now. Zen Gardner and Tech Zombie at 8th Air Force, some of these other people that are all writing about the fact that there's a war going on and that aliens are not what you think they are. If you were an alien, where would you hide in plain sight as a metaphor? You would hide possibly in that 4th genome blood type, O negative, and the war with the alien is battling you on an internal level, dealing with nothing to do with time and space. Now, we think that we were invaded about 200,000 years ago. That's when we started seeing historical records of something equivalent to what we think are aliens appearing on Earth. They're historically been part of our whole metaphor of archetypes. And so, with that said, there is a war going on, but not quite the way you think it is. And it's going to require a lot of work on each of us to get up off the couch and start walking our talk. You are not going to be able to save the world, but your children are watching you. And that's how they learn, and that war of how to deal with internal landscape gets passed on through generations. And that's why children are our most important asset, resource, the diversity. That's why the educational systems are trying to standardize everything. They are trying to limit our awareness through distraction. Money is not real. What's real is, it's a theatrical prop. What's real is your labor. That's why such friends of yours like Xavier Hawk are doing things like permacredits.com, where it's around agriculture. So I have my own ideas of what I think to do, and I have a list of protocols. The first is you start walking your talk. It doesn't matter if you're in conflict with someone else, because that part is actually God's will. You have no right to judge. What you do is judge yourself. And that, if you do that, there will be spiritual growth. And at some level, you and I are one, and I am the walrus. It's called the archetypal plane, or the collective unconscious of man, to be distinguished from alien.
And I think we see that, Rick, when you look at just our DNA, and they call the 97% junk and things like that. I mean, all the ancient tribes of the planet knew. There's a genome blood type that Sir Lawrence Gardner got a night ship from the Queen of England discovering it. Look, that's why we went from being Homo sapien to Homo sapiens sapiens. We are a collective of 4 different genome types, and one of which is alien. We don't even know where it came from. That's now, right. The other 3 is Neanderthal and so on. Our genome types, what makes man God's favored is the cooperativeness in the genomes. And so there's your war. And that's why you have a choice. And you, basically, what you do and what you believe and how you behave is how your mini-me, your child, your next incarnation, any way you want to look at that, that's what happens next. And it isn't going to be you that saves this earth, it's going to be your granddaughter. And literally, you better walk your talk.
That's how it all starts.
I think that's the common ground, and I say that for years now on the show, is the common ground is the children. That's why we're all doing this. Is the children are the leaders. They're the ones that we have to pave the way for. It's just what you're saying, because we see this all over history. This is not new news that you're talking about, Rick, about ETs and aliens, and this is old information. The ancients knew about it. They talked about it. There's hieroglyphics about it. The evidence is everywhere. This is old news.
Like the Men from Mars, or what is that, Mars Attacks, where Nelson Eddy is going to come in and save the day by singing,
yes.
When
it's
I'm
not like
calling
that.
you. That's a great movie. I loved it when the president, Jack Nicholson, in the White House says, stepping over a charred body, said, "Why can't we all just get along?" And the alien is sitting there with a little tear coming out of its eye, and he laughs.
That is a classic movie, and
it's a classic scene about the difference of being human. Humanity and being human includes compassion, love.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the rules. And the fallen angels, the devils, the things on earth. Oh, that's it. The things on earth that fell to earth were greed, sloth, lust, jealousy. Look, those are the demons you're fighting. And really, they're alien. They're fallen angels. Metaphor. And we're all of us only in 4th grade. By the way, as the next topic we can talk about, the military now has a brand new weapon, and they have been deploying it.
Let's jump into this, because this just shows how crazy humanity has gotten, Rick. Please explain to listeners the craziness that they've now done.
Well, when Building 7 came down at 9/11, and the cement turned to slag, and they tried to argue that that's from a jet fuel burning, get a grip.
Impossible.
There's physics involved here, and that temperature of jet fuel burning will not turn concrete to slag. The only thing that will do that is a plasma. Okay,
jet fuel doesn't get hotter than 1,600, 1,500 degrees, and you need 2,500 or hotter to melt steel.
Well, but steel didn't melt at a 617-foot beam that was sitting there, and when it started to fall, it disintegrated into... And there's only one thing that does that, the plasma. And
Thermite
I
plasma.
built the first plasma. I know it. I did it in 1965. 1965, my undergraduate thesis at Washington State University, I built the first plasma jet. It later was used by Giannini so that they could melt titanium and spray it on 1 angstrom on space tiles. And so that's how we were able to go to space, is because of a plasma jet. Now what they're doing is they're taking 60 carbon atoms and forming a buckyball. It's approximately 1.2 nanometers. That will hold as much as 23 deuterium and tritium water molecules. And you put a laser light inside that buckyball, it goes critical, and you have a fusion reaction, a cold fusion reaction. And the only thing that can hold that is that 60, not a C70, is another buckyball. It's not as strong. These are the concepts of forming nanofibers that are 10 to 100 times stronger than diamond and are a containment vessel for the explosion. And they're doing it on a nanometer level, which means the precision of the reaction is unbelievably orders of magnitude beyond nuclear explosions. Further, the military, Air Force, has just released a document about the teleportation of light. That is, they move a light beam and tunnel it through space into inside an object like a fullerene to start the ignition process.
And Rick, we're out of time now, but this new weapon they developed basically can evaporate everybody anywhere. It's insane. And as always, check out
Star Trek, when the good Captain Kirk kicks over the body of the bad Captain Kirk.
There you go. Rick, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Check out richardalmiller.com. Here's some more DJ Michael Scalar. Rick, have a fabulous weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
on a global scale. You see people traveling, a lot of people traveling, a lot of people buying up things, but it's a very, very small group of people. When you have that, it doesn't sustain itself for long periods of time. And that's basically what I think is the bigger problem behind everything going on in regards to the small workforce participation in the United States and other countries, a generation's lost in Europe into the European Union. Industry has actually faltered recently in the last quarter in Germany, and that's really what's causing the pangs in the market, so to speak. And right now, as the market yesterday went down points, has now somewhat rebounded, and I say that very, very slightly, only at 25 points up since yesterday, and the 334 points going down. And analysts, many have said, as well as had Morgan Stanley, Reinbart said this today. He said that the workforce participation is null, and that is probably the reflection, that there's no other correlation, because they say that the stock market's doing well. And, yeah, there is a definite...
Well, here's the one thing I have to say about analysts, Ryan. They're analyzing the rig system, so to me, their analyzation means absolutely nothing. Just like all the totalitarian, globalist diplomas from Harvard and Yale we were talking about. What do we call them? We came up with a name for them. For all the Harvard and Yale people who graduated. They're basically over tonight, so it's going to be awesome. Next week and the following week, doing live broadcasts in all the cities: Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, Atlanta, and Asheville, beautiful Asheville. So it's going to be an amazing, amazing trip. Joining me on the show today, we have none other than our three local and amazing guests we'd like to have on. I call them local because they're in the family. We have Ryan Matthew Dernick coming on from bellwetherpost.com. And then after that, we have a WINDFOX update. We're going to be talking about some antibacterial protection. Uses it for organic antibacterial to antibacterialize your hands and your house and cleansing, just to keep everything all in all nice and clean. We also have Dr. Richard Allen Miller coming on. He's one of the show's favorites. Here we're going to be talking about Fukushima, as well as a new type of neutron bomb that the government has developed. We'll get into that, and of course, we're going to go into some Ebola outbreak stuff. But first, we're going to jump to our very own Ryan Matthew Dernick, none other than bellwetherpost.com. Check out his stuff. He's always posting great news and articles, and lots of things going on in the world today.
Definitely.
Ryan, it's Friday. You know what that means.
I know what that means. TGIF.
TGIF. Exactly. Graduating with doctorates and things based upon people just writing up. It's
basically, if you look at it, most education to a great degree is all propaganda, and to the specific propaganda which you're subjected to and you're inculcated into or digested into, that you become a compartment of and a supporter of, and that's only natural in the human psyche and the way we are as mimickers. That's what we are as human beings. And we have to adderate toward a higher consciousness versus this backward, cabal-like mentality of divide and conquer, because that ultimately leads to nowhere good. And if we do eventually have a third world war, after that, the war thereafter, as you know, Jonah, as scholars have quoted, will be fought with rocks and sticks. So that's where we would head if unfortunately we go that way. But in regards to Ebola in Madrid, the fears have increased.
And Ryan, just to say, I agree with you on that 100%. We don't want to see a world war. We're talking about this stuff and bringing it to light so we can make a change for the planet, like you said, to raise the consciousness. That's why we're talking about this stuff, so people can be aware, so we can do something about it. If you're not aware, can't help the situation. Ebola's popping off. What's going on with the Ebola update?
In regards to Ebola, the hospital staff at the Madrid hospital where the nurse was working, and they did euthanize her dog, of course, because they were worried of transmission from humans.
Live from the mothership, you are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host, Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
Alright, what's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You're receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio. It is now time to hear the colors and see the music. I'm your host, Jonah Bolt. Today is Friday. Friday. I'm launching my 2-week adventure 5-city tour tonight, flying to Denver. There we go. Talk about Ebola. Oh, ISIS taking over. It's Friday. We got volcanoes popping off. Time for the news. It's Friday, so we're going to have a little fun, Ryan. Talk about the Hong Kong protest going off. Woo! It's going off in Hong Kong. Here we go. All right. Let's get a little serious here. Try to get a little serious in airways. Ryan, give us some updates. We have Hong Kong protests popping off. They revamped.
They've reamped up the protest. Everyone's there for the long haul. They have tents. They've got all their supplies ready. And surprisingly and most amazingly, it is a youthful movement in those areas in regards to fighting back China mainland policies of not honoring the agreement that they made in 1984 when they broke away from Britain and were once again part of the mainland of China in regards to having democratic elections. This is really the bottom line, is they just want the democratic elections. Can you blame them? I mean, it is the 21st century. I think totalitarianism should take a back seat, and we should go forth with a more democratic,
and it's China, too, so of course I'm all for democracy in China. Problem is, Ryan, there is no real true democracy left on the planet, but please continue.
No, there's not. And if anybody else notices, there is somewhat of a banana republic effect. I'm going to call that